Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank you for joining us, especially on such a bad weather day. I hope everybody's staying safe and warm. And today we're going to talk about lesson plan checklists, which I think are an overlooked feature in Forethought and very powerful. So I hope this will be helpful to your district. I'm going to jump over to a teacher login, and I'm going to go into Forethought as a teacher. And what you will see on my screen, you may not be seeing on your screen. Everybody sees where it says double click the standards. And when I click in this box, I can double click to add a standard to my lesson plan box. But you may or may not have this line that says click here to select checklist items. This depends on whether your district has turned checklists on or not. So if you're not seeing it right now, and you are the person in charge in your district, I'm going to show you how to set these up in just a few minutes, and you'll be able to turn it on so that your teachers will see this checklist. So when the checklists are enabled and you have this line item here, when you're writing your lesson plan, you can click there either at the beginning or at any point during your lesson plan writing and expand it out to the lesson plan checklists that your district has created. So I have several in my demo site. That doesn't mean you have to have this many or this few. You could have as many checklists as you feel that you need for your district. My original group of checklists was structure, assessment, instructional strategies, and then student and teacher technology use. But this year I went in and added an additional checklist for virtual learning strategies, to help teachers through what we've been going through this year with as much online learning is happening. These checklists serve a couple of different purposes. One, they're a quick and easy way for your teachers to add information into their lesson plan without having to do a whole lot of typing. So it's fast, but it still gives a lot of information. Secondly, for me as a teacher, I have a tendency to fall into some ruts. So I know that, for example, in structure, I usually start out with whole group, and then I will move to some sort of partner activity at some point in the lesson. That's my go-to. So when I look at this list, I am going to be reminded of some of those other options that I might have as I'm going through and writing my lesson plan. For assessment, if it's not a test or quiz day, then my ruts are ticket out the door or reflection journal. Those are the two that I do most often. So by looking again at this list, I can be reminded I need to do something a little bit different. Maybe today I'm going to use the student response devices, and that will be something that's a little out of my comfort zone, but it'll give an opportunity for kids who learn better that way or who are more engaged that way to have that opportunity. Same with instructional strategies. I know that I have a rut with graphic organizers and with interactive notes, or two column notes. Those are my ruts, but I can see whatever list you have there that you want me to be thinking about as a district person, and maybe that will remind me to choose some of the others. I'm going to go with my rut for today, and I'm just going to say that the kids are going to use a Chromebook at some point in this activity, and I am going to start off with a PowerPoint, so I'm going to check that off. And I may have a document camera that I use if I have to do some things where I'm going to write. I'm not really good writing on the board, but I can use a document camera and my handwriting looks a little bit better that way. So I'm going to check off all the items that I want to add to my lesson, and then I'm going to click this little close button, and it will collapse it down so that only the items that I selected show up in my lesson plan for that particular day. And they're going to show up in this box where the standards show up. And we all know that the standards can be tracked. Actually, anything in that box can be tracked. So what I have done today is going to show up on a report that I can run, and that's where I can sort of identify my ruts and what am I covering well, what am I not using at all, how can I reflect on my own instruction by looking at a report of what I do here over time. But that was a quick and easy way for me to go in and add a lot of information to that lesson plan before I even start putting my details in. I've made some plans before I even get started. Now that I said I was going to use a graphic organizer, that may be part of my warm-up activity, or it may be materials that I give them a handout that they're going to use as a graphic organizer. This might focus me on the things that I need to add to my lesson plan. Or I could do it the other way around. I'm going to click save, and I'm going to go to a lesson that is already created. So I have my lesson plan, and I can see we're going to watch a video, and I'm going to use an overhead projector or a smart board. And the kids are, I'm going to use a PowerPoint presentation. The kids are just going to do their work on paper, but I do have an independent practice section, and I have some assessment that I have written here. So now I can go back to my checklist and say, this starts out as whole group, but they have some individual work that they're going to do. As far as assessment, it's going to be an in-class activity that I'm having them do. Instructional strategies. I don't know. I could incorporate think, pair, share into this one because there is a part where they're going to share the tongue twisters that they write in this lesson. So maybe we'll call it that, or maybe I'll just say other noted in the lesson plan, because that's an option that you can set up all these options however you want to. The kids are not using any technology, but I am going to use a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to show a video. So those are the items based on I've already written my lesson. I can go back in and add those in. So you can either do the checklists at the beginning to sort of guide your planning, or if you've already written the lesson plan, you can add those items into the checklists after the fact. So that's what it looks like from the teacher's point of view. And as a teacher, I can go up to the top and click on my little printer. And one of my print options is to print that checklist report. And it's going to generate a PDF document, which I will open up. And it's not going to show much because this is my demo site. It's not an active teacher. But you'll notice that for each one of the sections or the checklists, here are all the items within that checklist. And it's going to show me how many times I used each one of those elements in each month. This one looks a little bit better, has a little bit more information, so I can see how many times I used cooperative groups or how many times I used individual instruction or individual activities in that particular month. So what I should see on these is sort of a shotgun look. I should see a scatter of everything is used at least some point in time, and it's kind of spread out throughout the months, throughout the strategies. I don't always see that on my own. Sometimes I just see a line straight across because I use the same things. That's my rut that I fall into. But this helps me to see what I'm doing well, what I'm not doing so well, and all of that. So as a teacher, I can see what is going on with me and my checklist. Okay, so that's all there is to it for the teachers. It's very easy for them to go in. If I decided I needed to make a change, I can always click on that checklist again and add something else. If I decided I'm going to give a quiz at the end of the class period, when I close that and go back, now quiz has been added into my assessment section. So you can edit at any time by clicking on it, and then you'll click the little close button in order to collapse it down so that you don't have that big thing on display at all times. I am not seeing any questions open at this point, so I'm going to go on to the administrative side and show you how you would set it up at the district level. So I'm going in as an administrator now into Forethought, and if you are the district curriculum administrator or one of them for your district, then this is what you would do if you wanted to set up checklists or edit the checklists that you currently have. So I'm going to go to Forethought options over on the left-hand side, and I have several tabs up here. Today, here is the lesson checklists. So what I'm seeing here is the list of all of the different checklists I have created. These are the topics that I have, or the titles for my checklists. This little checkbox here that says enable checklist items, if I uncheck it, those checklists are gone for my teacher now. They're not published. This is what makes them active. So you can check or uncheck that to turn the lists on. So that means you could leave them unchecked until you're finished working on them, have them fully developed, are happy with the way they look, and then you could click that enable checklist button to make them visible to your teachers. If I wanted to add a new checklist, I could do that. So I'm going to create one today called Writing Across the Curriculum. So that's going to be my new group of checklist items. So I have all these that I had previously, and then I've created a new one. And then below where you write the checklist is where you're going to put those items in there. So if I look at my structure checklist, these are the items that I currently have in there for my structure: whole group instruction, virtual instruction, cooperative group, etc. So I can add any more at any time, or I can remove them at any time. I'm going to go down to that new checklist that I just added in there, and I'm going to add some items in. So I'm going to say I want to add warm up activity. These are ways that teachers might add in writing, even if they're in science or math or social studies. I'm going to add reflection or journal as an option. I'm going to add essay question, which could be part of a test, or it could be an activity. I'm going to add in a project option. So if they were having to do a project in my class, maybe writing a report is one of the options I would give them. And then I usually add in other noted in the activity, because I figure I can't think of everything that teachers might want to do, but I can give them that option and they can add something in if they want to. So I added that in, and now when I click on writing across the curriculum, I see those choices. Just like when I click on structure, I'll see the choices that I had in there previously. I have a question, and it's a good question, so I'd like to share with everybody. Are there checklists already created, or do you have to create for your district? And the answer is you have to create them for your district. I do have a document that shows my samples because people have asked me for it before. If you would like that, if you would like to see the samples that I have here, just as a starting point to be thinking about, you can email me at Paige, Paige, at eduphoria.net, and I will send those to you. I'd be happy to do that, but you do have to create them for your district. We don't have any that, like we have the community in Strive where you can bring in templates. We don't have that option here in Forethought where you could bring in checklists. So if you will email me, I will send you is a PDF document basically that just shows you what my samples are, and you can use those to think about, but you can create whatever you want. We have some districts that have grants, and they have something that they want to see in lesson plans related to that grant, and they can create a checklist specifically for that, or a campus initiative or district initiative. These checklists do show up for the entire district, so there's no way to say this checklist is just for one campus or this checklist is just for elementary. They will always see all of them. However, when you go in and look at the checklists, if virtual learning strategies doesn't apply to what I'm doing today, I can just skip over that. Or if there is a checklist in here that doesn't apply to me because it's more secondary and I'm elementary, I can ignore that. And when I close my checklist box, it does collapse down. So I'm not looking at all of those checklists all of the time. And you'll notice within the checklist, I'll go in and look at instructional strategies, graphic organizer, you might have some of these things at any level. They could be at any level. As a previous secondary teacher, we did not use foldables all that much, but it could be used at that level. At the elementary level, you would probably not do 2-column notes or an analysis chart. So there, you can have some things in there that might apply more to one level than to the other, but you can build those checklists however you want to and create whatever items you want. And again, once you have your checklists created the way you want them to be, you just make sure that that enable checklist button is checked. And as soon as that is checked, then they're going to show up for your teachers. If I do a refresh here, we are going to see, if I go into my checklists now, there is that writing across the curriculum checklist that we just created, already added into the checklist for my teachers because I had that enable button checked. So it's easy to get them set up, and it's as soon as you check that button, it's immediate for the teachers to be able to see them, and they can go in and add them to their lesson plans. At the district level, you can also go over to your reports section, and there is a checklist usage report. You can start that whenever you want to. So if I want to know everything that's happened so far this school year, I could go back to August. Oh, no, where am I? What year am I in? Could go back to, I went to August, and I could pick for the entire district, or I could pick a specific elementary school, depending on what I want to see. If I'm the district professional development department, I probably want to see for the whole district. And then I would submit the report. It's going to look very similar to the teacher report that we looked at a few minutes ago, but you'll notice this one is district wide, and it's going to show me what all has been done in the district. It's going to look very much like the one that we had before, because we don't have a whole lot of demo teachers. So my demo teacher looks a lot like the whole district. But I can look at this and see what is being used by the teachers in my district. If, for example, I come down to the instructional strategies and I see some gaps, some things that are missing, that might help me to plan for professional development that I want to offer this summer. Maybe I see some things that are not being used. Maybe they're not being used because the teachers don't have enough information. So that might help me to do some planning. Or if I was a campus administrator and we had just had professional development on instructional strategies and I see some gaps, I might want to use some staff development time on my campus to remind them of those strategies that they have learned and need to be implementing. So it's going to give you some information either at the district or at the campus level to help you see what's going on with those different areas that you want to track. Again, it's helpful for the teachers to get that information into their lesson plans quickly. And I think teachers like it for that reason. It's also a reminder to see all of those different options and not just fall into my rut of what I write when I'm not looking at the list. But it also gives you some data about what's being done in the classroom. And, if you've had an initiative to get student technology, out there, maybe you'll have a way to track how often are the teachers writing that into their lesson plans where the kids are actually using that technology on a daily basis. Hopefully that was something helpful for you, maybe new, maybe not new. I think it's a very powerful tool for teachers and districts to use. If you do have questions, or again, if you wanted those samples of the checklist that I have used, you can email me, Paige at eduphoria.net, and I will send you those samples. Or if you have any other questions after today's session is over, you can always email training@eduphoria.net, and one of the trainers will be in touch with you as soon as possible to answer your questions. I want to thank you for your time today. And again, I hope everybody's staying safe and warm, and that we will see you next time. Our next Lunch and Learn is next week, and it is on Forethought activities. Thanks, and we'll see you then.